Hello everybody, I'm Michelle and today we are in a different location. We're in my apartment. These are my very messy shelves and today I'm going to be doing the coffee book tag. This tag was created by Bangity Bangs and I will be linking his original video in the down bar. There are 8 questions, so let's get started. Black. Name a series that is hard to get into but has hardcore fans. For this I picked Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a trilogy, I believe it's gonna be, unless it's gonna be longer than that. This is incredible, but I find it quite difficult to get into the first book, but once you get through those 200 first 100 pages or so, it goes off incredibly well. So yeah, Name of the Wind. Peppermint mocha. Name a book that gets more popular during the winter or festive seasons. So the obvious answer for this is Harry Potter, but since it said festive, I figured I could bring Coraline by Neil Gaiman into the picture because Halloween is also festive. It is a festive season. This is my 10th anniversary edition that is signed by Neil Gaiman and illustrated by Chris Rydell. Hot chocolate. What is your favorite children's book? Now this was really difficult. So I decided to pull out 3 of the books that I remember from being quite little that I loved. We have Laura Trenta, The Testament. This is a Swedish author and this is actually the second book in I think what was a duology. The first one was called The Photography. I can't really tell you what it's about because I can't remember. I just remember being obsessed and rereading both of the books so many times. Another one that was quite big when I was little was Narnia. This is the first one, My Uncle the Wizard. I'm not sure it's called that in English, but that's the direct translation from the Swedish one. Then I also have Flipper by Richard Hardwick. Now this I picked up at a boot sale, I believe. It's actually from the 60s, this particular one at least. I loved it. I can actually pull chapters out of it because it's falling apart, but I refuse to get rid of it because this is such a big part of my childhood. Double shot of espresso. Name a book that kept you on the edge of your seat the entire time. A little disclaimer before I give the answers to this. I don't read much thriller or anything like that, so I didn't have many answers. I do have 2 though that I would fit into this category, I guess. So there's Lexicon by Max Barry. I can't remember much of this, but on the back it says sticks and stones break bones, words kill. I remember it being very stressful to read. I couldn't tell you much about the plot. It's been about 5 or 6 years since I read it, but it is called The Year's Smartest Thriller by Time. So I would recommend it. I remember being somewhat let down by the ending of it, but it's a great ride. And then because I love Patrick Ness, I wanted to mention More Than This, which is an incredible book about a boy who drowns and then what happens in the afterlife. That's not a spoiler. That literally says on the first page, and it says so on the back. It's not a spoiler. Starbucks. Name a book that you see everywhere. I decided that this was a positive thing and chose Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig. This has been talked about so much and I've seen it everywhere and I love it. It's kind of a sequel to his other book on his mental health and anxiety. The first one is called Reasons to Stay Alive. And this one is called Notes on a Nervous Planet because he sort of broadens the ideas that he talked about in his first book. And if you didn't pick this up because you were scared of a sequel, I would say do it. Just pick it up. It is fantastic. That Hipster Coffee Shop. Give an indie author a shout out. Now, I went through my shelves and realized that I didn't really have an answer for this. The only one that I could think of was E.N.S. Thomas, or Please Find This, which is a really well-known blog, but I haven't heard many people talk about his fiction, which is freaking fantastic. Intentional Dissonance is an amazing science fiction book about what happens in the world after 10 years of it being officially ended. And if you're into poetry or you love Please Find This, the blog, I would recommend that you check out his collection, I Wrote This For You and Only You. This has both his poems and some pictures. Oops, I accidentally got Decaf. Name a book that you expected more from. Now this was really difficult because I tend to go into books without expectations unless it's a sequel, and I don't read much series anymore, so I figured all of the sequels has probably been mentioned in this, so I'm just gonna try and pick something a little bit different. I went for Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. I didn't necessarily have really high expectations going into this book, but it just wasn't what I thought it was, which is often the case with classics. I find is that either you've like seen or read a remake of some sort, and so you think you have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be, and you don't. The perfect blend. Name a book or series that was both bitter and sweet, but ultimately satisfying. Now I'm not gonna pick up my trilogy of this, but the Mistborn trilogy. Brandon Sanderson, for me, can't do any wrong. So far, everything that I've read by him has been incredible. My gateway into Brandon Sanderson was the Mistborn trilogy, and so that's the one that I'm choosing because I haven't completed anything else by him. So that was the coffee book tag. If you want to do this tag, you're now tagged. Go on, have fun. And until next time, stay magical!